It was really been a great couple weeks from our guys. I think the players have really good demeanor right now. It's been awesome to get some players healthy. We've really been in a good position, probably healthier than we've been in the last 4 or 5 weeks, which is very encouraging. Guys got to finish up some classes. We had 21 new graduates, 36 guys overall going into the playoffs with their degree. Pretty special, pretty awesome. Tremendous job by just our staff and academic staff, and now it gives our guys a chance to kind of just focus in on playing football, the game they love, and an opportunity in the playoffs. So I think we're going into our 10th SEC opponent now, which in 13 weeks. So another great opponent that we've already faced. I think Oklahoma's got a great rhythm. They have an understanding of who they are and what they want to be and how they want to operate, and they're executing that plan at an efficient level, playing their best football here at the end of the season, which is what any good coaching staff can ask for. And I think we're doing some really good things in a number of areas, and we've also got to improve in a number of areas. And so our guys seem to have a great sense of urgency to get certain things fixed, and also are keeping the main thing. I think they're playing fast and playing physical in practice, and those things got to show up in Norman, Oklahoma on Friday.
All right, thank you, Coach. Let's start with Chase right in front. You mentioned it's good to get some guys back healthy. Kalen DeBoer the other day said that LT Overton's going to be doubtful. So in terms of replacing what he brings as a pass rusher, can you just kind of paint the picture of what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, I think, we've done a lot of different packaging, putting different personnel groups on the field. You've seen some of that already. I think I counted up the other day. I think we've had 16 different personnel groupings that we've carried in games, which is more than what I've done in the past, but I think it's how we utilize our roster better, and we'll continue to do those things and moving guys around so that we can generate pass rush, get the right people on the field at the right time. But certainly Jordan Renaud, you've seen Keon Keeley. We've even moved, in certain packages. You've seen James Smith play the bandit field position in short yardage, goal line, tight red zones, certain things like that. And then from a pass rush standpoint, which you ask about, I don't know if you noticed. I mean, we've been doing this for 6-7 weeks now, but putting Yanze Pierre over there a little bit, and then putting one of those other wolves in there from a pass rush standpoint. So we'll continue to find different personnel groupings. I think that's my job. We're not reinventing the wheel in terms of what we're doing defensively, but who goes in what places and how we move those guys around. I mean, to me, that's a big piece of what I do here on the back end of the season to maximize our personnel.
Go to Katie in the middle.
I think winning the turnover battle is one of y'all's keys to victory every week, but both games this season you haven't forced a turnover. Alabama's lost, so just kind of how big is that, you think, heading into the playoff in this rematch with Oklahoma?
Yeah, takeaways, Katie. We call them takeaways. Turnover implies they gave us the ball. Takeaway implies we took that thing from them. So, no, we do. We want to create takeaways. If you look at the game against Oklahoma the first time, really at every marker, we tried to say, hey, look, we got to go outplay their defense, and they do a tremendous job. And really, at pretty much every marker, we were able to do that, with the exception of taking the ball off of them. And they took it off of us 3 times, and we didn't take the ball away, and that really was the difference in the game. So those are the things that we're trying to push and press. Sometimes they come in bunches. I think our players are doing as good of a job as they ever have of trying to create takeaways, trying to punch at the ball. We talk about shots on goal, right? Shots on ball. That's ultimately the what's going to create takeaways is effort and physicality and a sense of, it's different when you approach a ball carrier thinking, okay, let me just get this guy on the ground versus I'm trying to take the ball off of him. And I think we've got a number of guys that are doing that, but it's got to show up on game day. We cannot walk out of that game -3 in the turnover margin again.
Let's go to Nick, all right.
Yeah, Oklahoma's defense obviously has been talked a good bit about, and for good reason, because it's a good defense. But
Yeah.
do you sense your guys wanting to maybe prove something to show how good of a defense that you have?
Well, I think anytime you're going up against, not only a good offense, but you know what is happening on the other side of the ball. You recognize what they're doing defensively, and I think rightfully so they have gotten a lot of praise on defense, and I think that was a challenge for us in the first game. Let's make sure we are the most dominant defense on the field, and like I said, in the first game, you can point to just about every marker where we were, with the exception of taking the ball away, and that to me is what, ultimately, scoring defense and takeaways. If there are 2 markers that we should be judged on as a defense, it's how many points are we giving up and are we taking the ball off of people? And it doesn't matter how they got the ball or where they get the ball or what the situation is. Can we find ways to stop people, and are we giving our offense more opportunities to score? And we didn't do a good enough job of that in the first game, and that, ultimately that was a deciding factor.
Go to Colin here on the front left.
Obviously, the college football playoff is kind of an expectation at Alabama, but this is kind of the first iteration of, with Kalen and this staff, the experience. Like, how are you encouraging your players, I guess, in this winner go home kind of mentality? What's the feeling? Because it's kind of brand new for this staff with it being the first.
I think you're right. Certainly in the college football playoff format, but let's not get it twisted. We've been playing win or go home since Florida State. So this is just another game for us that means everything. And I think that's the way our players have carried themselves. I think that's the way the coaches carry themselves. You're coaching for your life every single day. You're playing for your life and a chance to go play another one. Now, ultimately, this is win or go home. But let's not get it twisted. It's been like that all season long.
Go to Tony on the front here.
Yeah, this was a game last month that Red Morgan made his first career start, performed
Yeah.
pretty well against the Sooners. Just what do you see him in this matchup, and how has he kind of progressed over this last month?
Well, like when you look at Oklahoma and how they want to attack you, perimeter throws, space throws, and Red is one of our best space tacklers. He's one of the best strikers we have on the team, if not our best striker. And what I mean by that is there's just a natural feeling of a guy that can get his feet in the ground at the right time and get the right placement to be able to step with your right foot and right shoulder and maximize power to get, to get somebody on the ground. To do that out in space, right, is a compounding, challenge. And so he does a great job of leveraging the blocks in the perimeter, but then he can get off those blocks and make plays in space. And so certainly his production showed up. He's continued to elevate his game and play better and better out there. But when you are playing a team that is going to stretch you laterally, your field nickel, right, has to kind of set a wall out there and essentially, right, put on film that, hey, look, if you want to throw the ball out here, right, you're going to have a hard day. And Red's doing that as good as we've seen for a while.
Jump over to the left side, Will.
Coach, that loss last year, obviously you took a big hit in the personnel group with Deontay getting hurt. What have you seen from him as he's really just stormed back from that injury and been a leadership presence and an on-field presence for this team as you go back into familiar confines this Friday?
Yeah, I think Deontay has – he's playing as good a football as he has played. He's got great confidence. He's taking care of his body at an elite level. He operates as a professional, and he's getting rewarded for it at the back end of the season. I told the guys in fall camp, and I remind them all season long, this is a war of attrition. So who can stay healthy? Your best ability is your availability. And guys like him that take care of their bodies throughout the grind of a season in the SEC, are ultimately going to put us in position in the playoffs to go compete. And we, in this league, have it harder than anybody else in the country when it comes to getting yourself ready to go compete in the playoffs, just because of the grind that you face physically week in and week out. And I think it's if I'm looking at, Deontay Lawson in terms of the NFL and his availability and the way he's pushed himself, what a guy that is going to show up every week, and he's only going to get better and better. And so he's great for his teammates. He's great in our building. He's a leader. He holds people accountable. He plays with tremendous effort and practice every day. And his best ability is his availability. Just keeps showing up. It's awesome.
Coach, we do have a question from the Zoom. Eli Letterman from ESPN. Go ahead, Eli, with your question.
All right. Zoom
Hey,
question.
Kane. You were coming up as a defensive coordinator yourself while Brent Venables was at Clemson. I'm curious what you remember from afar of watching him, and then when you look at him now and as a play caller yourself, what jumps out to you about the way he operates?
Yeah, I've gotten to know Brent a little bit over the years, and he's obviously an extremely proven play caller. He's found ways in different places, different defensive personnel to have a highly efficient defense. And I think one of the things that stands out is not only are they an efficient defense, but they're a productive defense. And when you look at it, look at their markers: scoring defense and takeaways. Those are the two things that I think matter most for a defense, and I think they're operating at an extremely high level in that regard. And so we exchanged text a few weeks ago, and just talked to him about how impressive they are to watch, and you get a little bit of crossover work and seeing some of the games that they faced and opponents and common opponents, and sometimes there's an exchange of information there as well. But certainly anybody that's doing something well in the league, I think it's our job as defensive coaches and as good coordinators in our profession to just take notice of what those teams are doing and see if you can incorporate maybe something fundamentally, something schematically, maybe something from a personnel grouping standpoint that fits, your team and how we can operate better. And so Brent's doing it at a really high level right now, and his players are buying into that.
Any other questions? Let's finish up with Joe right here in the middle. We got a mic coming.
Coach, how would you assess your unit's ability to play offense on the perimeter, screen passes, swing passes, sweeps, and how that marries to an offense's really want to get into the quarterback 1+ run situation?
Yeah, I think we make it really hard for people on the perimeter. I think the way that we leverage the ball schematically, I think the way that we talk and teach fundamentally, getting off blocks, we have a number of ways that we can kind of mess with people on those perimeter space tackles and then still have enough hats in the box for the 1+, run fit. And so those are things that certainly Oklahoma challenged us in the first game. If they're listening, I'm not going to call any one play the same. It'll be a completely different game plan in all areas. But ultimately, right, you have to find creative ways to defend the lateral space and still take care of a 1+ quarterback system. And that, to me, right, is probably what they've done a really good job of, is they just stretch you laterally with all 11 bodies, and you got to be able to defend, their 1+ quarterback runs. And so that'll be a great challenge for us on Friday.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. Roll Tide.